Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. We're recording a little late in the week because we wanted to hear what this announcement was of this, breathtaking and magnificent modern product. And we heard about it. We're going to talk about it.
You said we.
We. Yeah. So we're definitely going to talk about it. And but before we jump into that, well, I guess afterwards, that's the only community thing we're talking about. After that, we have our discussion of the Mythic Championship Cleveland, as well as GP Cleveland, and that Mike and I were both at. And it was a good time. It was a little preview for you, but tune in. And then we actually have a very special interview. Actually, while we were there, we got to interview one Dan Musser, who's part of the play design team. And he was so kind to give us an interview. Now Michael will say in the interview, I think that they went to high school together.
Yeah, no, this is like nepotism, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but we were able to get a minute of his time and kind of ask him some questions about what he does and like his opinions about stuff and things. So definitely check out the episode for that as well. But let's get started. Let's talk about Modern Horizons.
I guess it does sound kind of like that. Like, what's that in the distance?
It sounds like a new age like cult that you would join. Like, oh, I haven't seen Bill in a while. Yeah, he got caught up with those Modern Horizons guys, and I don't know. He tries to sell me supplements. I don't like it.
Modern Horizons is definitely like it's like a dating website for a very specific group of people.
Oh man. Anyway,
you're kind of hip but don't want to die alone. Welcome to Modern Horizons.
We'll find you someone, hopefully.
Probably. Could be.
That someone might be spiritual enlightenment. It might not be a person.
Could
though.
be Nirvana. It could be Dave Grohl. Honestly, I don't know.
I don't really know. Both are fine. But this is going to be the I forget what they call these kind of products. But it's the same slot as something like Conspiracy, something like Battle Bond, where they kind of are able to design a product that goes out of the bounds of what you would see in a typical, expert level, standard level set. This one is interesting because it is the direct injection for modern. So these cards will not be standard legal, but they will be modern legal. Some of the cards in the set will be brand new design cards that have not been made yet. Some of these cards will be reprints, but they will be reprints that are currently not modern legal that they will be putting into the format with this set, which is what a lot of people have honestly asked for a long time. Because you kind of have this with Legacy a little bit. Because you have all these supplemental products that come out, like Conspiracy, like Battle Bond, but also like the Commander sets or what have you, that when these sets come out, or these products come out, they are Legacy and Vintage legal by default, but not Modern. So there's just been a ton of cards that people have, that have come out in these sets, but also have just been around in Magic that people have desperately wanted in Modern, and now may potentially have the chance to see the light of day. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see any of the cards that are going to be reprints. We do know that this set is coming out in June.
June 14th.
June 14th. There will be a pre-release for it, and that pre-release will be Draft, which sounds really good, actually.
I probably won't get to play in it.
That's unfortunate.
Because it's the weekend of SCG Con.
Oh, and you're going to be going
I'm queued for the Invitational.
Going to be going to Roanoke.
When I scrub out of that, hopefully they'll have pre-releases.
Hey, there you go. But I think that's really cool because I myself probably wouldn't have gone to but I'm less incentivized to go to a sealed pre-release than I am a draft one because I like draft just more as a format. And much like the supplemental sets, this set is meant to be drafted as well, so it has that design philosophy in mind. And the cards that we did get are quote unquote new cards, but they might remind you of old cards.
What One of them will remind you.
Okay,
of
one of them
cards.
will. One of them
One of them
is
uses an old card's name. I guess an old person's name, a dead person's name. You're an imposter. Tear this mask off.
We could first start with the first card that they talked about here on the stream, which was Cabal Therapist.
What a name!
It's a good name. It's 1 black mana for a 1/1 with Menace, and it has some text on it. And it's what in the at the start, beginning of your first combat main phase, right? Is the
beginning of your first main phase, pre-combat main phase.
Pre-combat main phase. That's what it is. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, name a card, and then you get to. It's Cabal Therapy if you do that.
It's literally Cabal Therapy. It's specifically a non-land card.
Non-land card, yeah.
Yeah, so that target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. So 1 mana, 1/1. You don't get to do the first turn. It's there, but every turn after that, you ostensibly could.
Yeah, as long as you have the fodder. And this is obviously reminiscent of Cabal Therapy. Yeah, even so much as the guy that is, or the creature, I guess would be a better term there. The creature that's represented on this card is the same creature that is on the art of Cabal Therapy, done doing the therapy. So they at least, flavorfully speaking, got that right, which is pretty good, actually.
It seems like the Cabal are into group therapy based on the amount of bodies that are
there.
here.
There definitely seems to be, kind of a circle of healing.
I would not have expected such new age practices from the Cabal, but you know what? It's 2019. People got to make changes, and I appreciate that.
That's true. They've gone to the New Horizons school. The Modern Horizons school.
I just appreciate that all colors of Magic are really focused on like self help. You know what I mean, and mental well being. It's nice to see. Now, granted, that takes the form of I think horrific mind intrusions in Black.
Whatever.
Let's to each their own. So,
sometimes you just have to go with their intentions, not their not what they actually do. I guess I don't know.
I think a card is definitely interesting and powerful. They said that these are going to be the kind of cards that would have circumvented standard. So either the reprints would be too powerful, or the cards they design are just a little bit too powerful or a little bit too disruptive. They didn't say they were going to be like all too powerful, and honestly, I don't think this card is that bad. Its repeatable effect, especially in older formats, is definitely powerful. But being a 1/1 that doesn't do anything the first turn it's in play, and yeah, it has menace, but it can't really attack or anything. I honestly think this card would have been fine in standard, but what do I know? So,
but if they reprinted it in standard, they couldn't have given it such a good name.
They could have put it in the core set.
I guess
we know we're getting a core set.
That's
true.
That's true.
But I mean, again, I still do appreciate this, and I agree. Yeah, you're right. They couldn't have had a sweet name because we were just on Dominaria, so we're not gonna do that again. I guess.
Right.
But we could,
and it wouldn't have been the same creature. Even because that creature doesn't really currently exist on Dominaria, right?
That is true.
Because all the Phyrexian stuff's gone,
and that's the major importance for the second card.
Yeah. So the second card, I don't have the.
I'm taking it.
Okay, that's fine. You go ahead.
Because it's everyone's bay.
Yeah.
It's Sarah the Benevolent. 2 generic white for a legendary planeswalker, Sarah. Starts with 4 loyalty and has 3 abilities. The first is +2 creatures you control with flying get +1/+1 until end of turn. -3 create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. So -3 create a Sarah Angel. That's pretty good. -6 you get an emblem with if you control a creature, damage that will reduce your life total to less than 1, it reduces it to 1 instead. So worship.
Yeah.
On an emblem. So worship's hard enough when it's an enchantment
to deal with.
You can't ever get rid of an emblem. So I hope you can kill all the creatures.
Right.
And if you're paying attention, 4 loyalty and the first ability takes up +2. You take it up, and then if you get to untap, you can have.
Yeah, this is emblem. Yeah, worship. Suspend 1. That's what a lot of people are instantly like looking at it and seeing.
I think it's fairly interesting too when you look at like the flavor wise of Sarah, because like Sarah did die. So like the idea that she comes in and like might make an angel or might just like peace out, but Sarah's like imbued her magic into the land, so it's just like here you go, here's a worship emblem. Well, that's kind of nice. These cards are interesting to me just because some of the planeswalkers they've printed this the Commander Teferi, Lord Windgrace, ostensibly were never post mending planeswalkers, so there's a lot of like hoops to jump through to get these onto a planeswalker card. But I'm glad they did it. It's cool. They had the whole art behind them when they did the Magic show, and I guess it's not the Magic Show because that was Evan.
I don't know. It's the Magic Weekly.
Whatever it is, it's terrible. I just like not to go off too much of a tangent, but oh boy, was that the most boring thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's it's
Like
a thing.
I haven't watched it. I watched it and I was like, oh.
I only watch it when they're going to announce things. That's when I watch it.
It was definitely. I felt bad for them because like they had Matt Nass on, who's like a modern guy who kind of insulted the format before realizing he shouldn't, and then like said it was great, and then he said like he's the reason they got Casey Guy banned, and then Cassius Marsh, the football player who's like plays like they're like, well, if there's anything wrong with the cards in this set, you could just ban it, right? And he like patted Matt Nass's back, and then both the two WotC employees were like, no. No more bans.
We don't like doing that.
So that was like an ice slap moment. I was like, "Oh, that was weird." But that's the burden of doing a show live. And credit to him for doing it. Like, they definitely like showed them the cards, and they're like, once those two are done looking at the card, we'll see the card. And I was like, there has to be a better way to do this for viewers. Like, I know you want to make it tantalizing and stretch it out, but if you just stretch the Play-Doh because you want to stretch the Play-Doh, you just have like bad Play-Doh, man. I don't tell you. Your hands smell like poop. Because that kid who didn't wash his hands also played with.
Oh yeah,
100% like poop. Anyways, we have a list of things about it. Do you want to mention that?
Yes.
So modern legals, again, skipping standard as was already mentioned. New cards and reprints of reprints of cards not in modern minus basic lands, which is cool because I think we could get some. I don't know if we get new art for that then. Like the way they worded that?
Yeah, I mean, presumably that would be the case. And
no, I think like that means there'll be reprinted art because those could be reprints from anything. That's what I mean by that. Like, I don't know.
Sure, I guess. I mean, basic lands are
irrelevant.
Yeah. But they could have they could be full art lands.
As we said, yeah, that's a spicy one. Releases June 14th, as we said. Draft release week in the June 8th and 9th. 254 cards plus a buy a box promo, which has been confirmed that it's not a new card.
Correct. It is a reprint. This is confirmed a reprint that is not legal in modern currently.
So I already told this to Morgan. They told us that doesn't work. You can't just give a promo of a card that they would get anyways. That doesn't work. Whatever. I'm just being cynical.
Listen, here's what it is. Since it's a non-standard set, the no rules apply.
No rules, just right.
Yep, just the Outback Steakhouse over there.
Available in stores on Magic Online and Magic Online price of $6.99. I think that's the same price as paper. Is that not true?
They never said what the price was on paper.
Oh, interesting.
Fun fact. There is going to be a GP. That does have this as one of the limited formats, I believe.
Oh, that's spicy.
I don't know if they announced that, but it was leaked. This was actually leaked a little bit early. So that's how a lot of people knew the name of the set before the actual announcement, because they leaked documentation stating that this is going to be a GP, and the GP price, though, is $90. Which is fueling some interest, fueling some fire as the price of the packs not being $10.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because typically these, Masters-esque sets or the reprint heavy sets, they've had price points at $10 and then online price points of $6.99, so $7. Now we do have the online price point. Normally you would think that would mean that, we're going to be looking at a $10 price point for these packs, but it could change, and maybe they haven't even nailed that down yet.
That's an interesting one. I guess I need to see what the reprint value is in this set, because making a set of new cards, like if it's mostly new cards, and then saying that this should be $7 to $10 a pack, that's a big ask.
Yeah.
So Force is in this set, right? That's what I'm asking. Force of Will has to be in this set.
So on the actual show, they were talking about revealing a blue card. It was a blue card, and they really hyped. They basically said this was, a premier card from the set, one of the best cards that could be revealed. So they declined on actually doing it. Obviously, that jumps. That gives people a lot of leeway to guess at what this was. It could be Force for sure. It could be Counterspell. It could be Daze.
Those two don't make for $7 to $10 packs.
No,
Force of Will does,
but there still could be other things that that are yet to be shown to us that also could,
sure,
obviously make up that cost difference. I mean, there's it's interesting when you take a look at it and kind of see. I could see them pricing it at the same price as Magic Online, pricing it at 7, and just matching the price there. I hope it's not a $10 price point.
Yeah, I agree. $20 draft sounds a lot better than $30 draft. So
Right.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm definitely excited to see what makes it in. That's a reprint, and I'm interested to see what what a set designed for these things. So like sets like Battle Bond and Conspiracy, which they compared this to, their innovative product.
That's what it is. Innovation product.
Yeah. So those sets were interesting, but they have led to a couple of weird interactions with older formats because they don't test for them, right? I think of things like the Monarch specifically and how it's sort of taken over Pauper.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a powerful mechanic in 1v1, and it obviously wasn't tested for anything outside of like casual multiplayer. So I do wonder like how this set will look when they have cards designed, but they have tested it at least some amount. Like it is
right.
So I like
it has a target. It's not just like
Right.
the target's not just
Fun.
Casual innovation set. The target is to get cards into Modern. Like obviously they want it to be draftable. Like that's also a
Also
goal.
a thing, yes.
But the goal is to get cards into Modern and like design cards specifically for Modern, which is interesting.
It's very interesting because they said they weren't trying to break anything. Like they said on that show they're pretty happy with where Modern was right now, and that they weren't trying to like super shake it up. So it's not like this is it's designed with a target, but it doesn't have like the target of like how you might design like a sideboard card or whatever else. But so I don't know. I'm interested to see how that is set up.
The reason ideally that I don't want the packs to be too expensive is because you do have new cards, and this is going to be the only place where you can get those cards.
Right.
So if this is the only place you can get those cards, and you make the pack super expensive, you by default make these new cards that could be very much important in Modern,
Very expensive.
super expensive, which I worry about because I like Modern. I bought a new Modern deck this weekend because I wanted to play Modern, and I didn't have a Modern deck anymore, so and I had a lot of fun. I learned a new deck, and it was a lot of fun, and I really liked it, and I don't want I want the format to be accessible. And this is like a way. I don't know, like what happens because does this make the format more accessible? That's a weird question because it's not reprinting anything that's already existing in Modern.
Right.
You're introducing a bunch of new cards that might also have supply issues into this, as well as did I say new cards? You're introducing a bunch of old cards that might already have supply issues and demands on them from other formats, and then you're going to introduce new cards that will also have supply issues based on how much of this you're printing. So it's just
that's I don't think that'll be an issue unless I'm crazy. If it's from the same branch of design that created like Battle Bond and Conspiracy,
right,
then they'll print to demand.
Okay, good.
Like
then they should. They have
like
to.
This is nothing about this.
In my opinion, they have
nothing about this had limited run, and I don't think they can make it a limited run because for exactly what you're saying. I think of what's the Sultai guy.
Leovold.
Yeah, like Leovold is a good example of what you're talking about. The card that wasn't designed for Legacy play specifically, but really, like, for a while there was dominating Legacy until they banned Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
It still sees play, but definitely...
Or True Name Nemesis, to even, like, a further extent.
I think of, like, Leovold, those because, one, the original copies were super expensive, but the foils...
Yeah, that's where
you're talking about like a couple $100 for a foil of a set you could go buy a box of for $80.
Yeah, exactly. And you had that thing happen with like Brightling a little bit, where the Mythic, the actual non-foil version of the card is still like a reasonable price point, but the foil kind of shoots up. And if that's the case, then that's probably still fine.
Yeah, Mythic slots are scary.
Yeah, they always are.
So, just because they could be, because assuming like if you do get Force, for example, that's a Mythic.
100%.
And Force just had a reprint, a couple years ago, and that card's just obviously super expensive. And like the thing that they have to be careful. Now, granted, I'm talking about Force Will. It could not be that, but like a card like that, like when you imprint more of it, just like they had with Eternal Masters. So yeah, you introduce it to modern players who now need a play set. The card's already expensive because of Legacy. and then that also increases technically the availability for legacy players as well. So it probably won't do that much to the price to lower it. You'll just add another. What is it? You're looking it up right now.
Yeah, it is way more expensive than I thought.
No, it
Force
shot
would.
way back up. It shot
Yeah.
like the price dip after
like
the Eternal Masters reprint did not last very long.
$80.
Yeah.
You could find some damaged ones for 60 on TCG
like,
Player.
60 is where like you get it between like 50 and 60 right with the reprint, and then they've gone back up to almost. And I guarantee you if they announce that card, it hits 100 before it goes down. You know what I mean? Because of demand, because people will need to have it for Modern once it's legal. So
The nice thing about that though is you're not reprinting it in a master set. You're reprinting it in what we are, assuming, but I think pretty safely assuming a set that is going to be able to be printed on demand. Which means that how that affects the price is a lot different than something like a limited run master set,
100%.
which is good. I don't know. I don't know if it'll be forcible. I could see Days. I could definitely see Days. I know that doesn't necessarily sell like, it packs, but
Here's the thing: if it's Force of Will and then that's the promo, the buy box promo, I'm in for a box, maybe 4.
So here's the thing: if that would be, if they did that, that would be, I think, the most egregious mistake that they would ever make.
Really?
Because the buy box promo can't be opened. It is
That's true.
200 plus cards and a buy box promo.
Right.
So if you make the buy box promo something that isn't already somewhat easily available, see that's I think the dangerous thing. I think the buy box promo is actually the dangerous card.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you make it something that isn't easily available, but also still is highly something you still highly want, like the example at this point in time would be Force of Will. Force of Wills are $200. Period. Because you've introduced a card that is high demand in Modern, but you've not built in a correct supply line for it.
I'm confused. You're saying that you said the buy box promo was a card that's in the set.
No, it's not a card that's in the set.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay, my apologies.
As far as I know, because if you look at the infographic they have two
Plus buy a box. Okay.
Plus buy a box. Promo.
Okay, I misunderstood.
It functions the same way.
You're right. It should not be Force Will. Never mind.
It 100% should not be Force Will.
That thing I got sarcastic about before, I guess I misunderstood.
It should 100% be a common or uncommon, in my opinion. I don't think you can make it a rare from an old set. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's weird. I don't know. Just make it Nexus of Fate again.
You just
you get non-foil Nexus of Fate.
There you go. Perfect. Hey, I mean, technically, non-foil versions of Nexus of Fate don't exist.
Yeah, so we're good.
But I think you can make it cool art and make it look good. But if you make that card, I think that card's bad. Like it's a bad reprint, which feels weird to have like this buy box promo that's a bad card that you don't want. So I think like that is a dangerous slot. I think once that buy box promo gets released, if it's good, it's gone. Like it's gone. All the cards that exist from it that already are out, that market's going to dry up. If it's niche, that's different. But I think they're playing with a dangerous game when they do that. I'm glad that it's a reprint, but it's not like. It's definitely going to be something from a pre-8th edition set. It doesn't take much to push some of those cards to not being able to be affordable anymore. So they could just rope-a-dope us and then print it 2 sets later in standard and be like, I got you. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we'll wait till we get more information on this.
For sure.
We're not going to get more information on this
Forever.
probably until after War of the Spark.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So,
but I wish they would just stop doing buy box promos.
Yeah.
I know that we are definitely the podcast that rallies against it, but stop it.
It's already dead. Yeah, I do want to mention quickly War of the Spark. We got some art.
We got art from Toy Fair.
Toy Fair. I got a trailer as well.
And, yeah, we did get a trailer that's just a teaser trailer. It's
trailer
not really
that has stained glass windows of all the planeswalkers, and then
correct.
The candles get blown out.
Yeah,
get it. And then the art from
And
Comic Con definitely seems to imply that the Eternals are definitely coming to Ravnica.
yeah,
so.
I mean, like, I think everything is kind of leading to this war in Ravnica. That's
Yeah.
obviously going to happen. That's going to involve the Immortal Sun. That's going to involve the Planar Portal, and going to involve all the things that we've seen leading up to this. I know that there were some interesting call-outs. If you watch the trailer, you get to see some planeswalkers. Like there was the it wasn't a it was like the short story book that involved a planeswalker. He has a stained glass window that it was just released like not too long ago.
Okay, gotcha.
So that that planeswalker has a stained glass window on it. There's some other interesting planeswalkers that actually get windows. You get to see Gideon with the black blade in his stained glass window, which is pretty cool. All but one candle gets blown out, and then you see the bolus horns get formed from the smoke. So like
Right.
that's obviously a pretty heavy,
Yeah, I think personally that I don't know if planeswalkers will die. Some could die, but Watsy's got to be really careful with that. Like it's tough to build up a character. Like Watsy's not a book or a movie, right? So like Magic is not a book or a movie. You can just like walk. So like every time you kill a character, you kill a lot of goodwill and a lot of equity down the line with like what you could do with that character. But I do think that based on what Bolus's plan is, I think a bunch of planeswalkers might lose their sparks.
Yeah.
Because it's the whole War of the Spark thing. So I think like Gideon's definitely one who might just like be on Ravnica for a while after this.
I think like some of the interesting theories that like I've seen are like Gideon dying as a way and dying and protecting everyone as a reverse of his origin story.
Interesting.
Which I think is kind of would be like a poetic end because like he killed all of his friends because of his hubris,
Right.
and now he can like reverse that fate and like save people, which is interesting. Like I thought that was cool. And like the idea that here's how like they could cheesily like get away around it is like his last act is to planeswalk back to Theros,
Yeah.
and then join the underworld,
Yeah.
and then meet up with Elspeth.
Elspeth is like, hey, what are you doing here?
What happened to you? Oh, is bad stuff happening? I guess I better come out of retirement.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the Mythic edition, which showed like all the planeswalkers on Ravnica, except for Elspeth.
Yeah, 100%. She's still in the underworld, guys.
And so another thing I think, like if I want to go like long con, like where this could go. So a bunch of planeswalkers lose their spark. They're stuck on Ravnica. A bunch of them don't want to be stuck on Ravnica, right? Some are probably okay with it. Like Gideon's like, all right, I'll join the Boros now. Who cares?
Yeah.
And then they're like, wait, but like, didn't Joyra make a spark that like, that Teferi got to crunch and become a planeswalker
He
again?
crunched it, got his spark back.
Thank you, Vorthos Guest.
How Teferi got his spark back?
So they take the planar bridge from the assumedly dead Teferi. I'll give Teferi
No, Tezzeret.
Oh, sorry, not Teferi. Tezzeret, sorry. Too many T's. And then they go and they're like, hey, we're going to put this on the Weatherlight. Because like Jory was like, well, I can't make any more sparks here, but if we went to the place that had the same materials, I could do that. And they're like, oh, interesting. And then it's let's go once again on the Weatherlight throughout the multiverse to get sparks back from people.
Gotcha. That could be interesting.
Yes. And then they can meet Spark Mandrill.
He's got all the sparks.
Somewhere along the way, Gideon blows up New Phyrexia. And
yeah, we get to see Koth again. Please.
It's 2019. We need Koth.
So like that's got to be the next arc. I think the next arc is going back to New Phyrexia.
That's definitely been set up. Like Karn is definitely like the RoboCop in this, right? Who is like, I will assist the citizens, but then I must go save Detroit.
And like there have been like talks about like how Karn will be there in War of the Spark, but won't participate because he's obviously a very much known pacifist. Good lord,
Pacifist.
And maybe something happens that he realizes that he needs to not be that and blow some blow up some Phyrexians. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that they can obviously do. But we'll just have to wait and see. That was a little bit of story speculation there.
That. I just wanted to throw it out there because I'm excited.
All right,
the book's coming out in about a month. I'm pumped.
I'll read that book actually.
Yeah.
I think I will. So, all right, I think that's going to be everything for community. Before moving on, I do want to give a quick shout out to Comic Town. They're our lovely sponsor, and they're going to be holding Modern Regionals here coming up in just a short time. It's going to be on March 9th. So definitely check out more about that event on their website, which is worldofcomictown.com, or check out Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. All right, we're going to talk about the Mythic Championship. So the Mythic Championship Cleveland or Mythic Championship 1 2019. I don't. It's such terrible naming conventions.
MC1 2019 or 2019 MC1 was the hashtag.
2019 MC1.
I do hope they reassess the hashtags.
You
that
know,
was bad.
Yeah, they really got it because it's not great.
I don't. I mean, I get why they don't want to tie it to cities, especially since we don't know what's going on with the Arena Mythic Championships. But man, like MC Clee, right? It's so much cleaner.
Yeah,
and we're there, so like, why not?
But Mike and I were in attendance. I was actually there on Friday, and didn't really. I have to be honest, didn't really watch. Like, didn't even really go over to the PT area or the MC area. Excuse me.
Yeah, where they got all the mic skills.
Yeah, I didn't go over there. It was pretty well sectioned off. They had one area that was for the Magic Fest, and then one area that was completely for the Pro Tour. And I never really ventured over into there until Sunday, until like the very last day, pretty much. But it looked like it was well separated and set up pretty nicely. It was dead quiet. I think that was the most thing. If you went over there, it was just silent. It felt like that was obviously on Sunday, but even the few times I walked over there, the other times it was
Saturday
still...
was like that too. We went over between matches on Saturday and watched some matches play out. Watched Joe Finkel play some limited, and you went from a very noisy GP through a door to serenity. It was nice. So I think if you're looking at setup, if this is how Mythic, it was definitely, I don't know how you felt, but the atmosphere felt really cool, just having all these things in one place. That's when you're talking about what Magic Fest being kind of a party or whatever else, that's the one that felt the most like it. And I think in talking, I said, we alluded to Dan Musser, who's going to be, we're going to play a little clip from him very shortly. And talking to him about, he said that the feedback he got all weekend and Watu was getting was super positive. And I asked him about the venue, how perfect, because the Cleveland Convention Center is really new. It is in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
It's built into the lakefront. It is real nice up there. And I said, is this something that, are you gonna have to look harder to find these kind of centers? And he goes, well, because one, he doesn't do that. So, but two, he said that it will be more difficult for European convention centers because a lot of them are smaller.
Yeah.
So he said that when he was a player, he played in PT for Paris, which had both, and he just said it was just really loud. And the nice thing is the PT really couldn't hear all of the loud announcements that you were getting from the GP because on day 2, while top 8 was playing out, so day 3 for the PT and day 2 for the GP, you had GP rounds and announcements and two GP called drafts.
Yeah.
And then you also had the MCQ going on. You had a lot of announcements. So it'll be interesting to see if they can manage to put them in places they have a little bit of sectioning off. I think it's a marriage that's going to work out really, really well.
Yeah, and I hope so. And it felt cool. It felt cool to be there and be able to play Magic and also be what turned out to be a part of a small part, a very small part, but it's a part of Magic history.
Yeah, getting to be like we were there.
Yeah, and it feels cool to have that opportunity going forward. If you wanted to go and be a part of it and not have to queue for it, felt nice.
It definitely seems like for those who getting to see that kind of Magic, if you've been grinding towards that and getting to see it, definitely stokes the fire a little bit. Just me walking over there, it was oh man, I want to be back in this environment. I got to do this, I want to do it again, and that was pretty interesting. So I think just you said, historic. Congratulations to Autumn Burchett for winning. Getting to go and stand over there and see the sort of conclusion of that and the award ceremony and all these things, that was very powerful.
And in all honesty, being over there and watching it, because I got to watch the entire finals, and have that knowing, and they set up a watching area obviously so people could be very far away while it was going on and still be able to see everything that is happening. And being able to be that close to that, it really wrapped you up in it. It really tied you up in it. I was definitely my body was definitely reacting to things happening. When tight games are tight, you could feel your heart pounding and stuff like that. And you just don't get that same sort of feeling watching it. Hundreds or thousands of miles away. You're in the same room where it's happening, and it's just Yeah, you
wanna
want
be in the room
you
when
want to be in the room when it happens.
I
So.
get it, Burr. I get it. I now understand.
And it's exciting because you're just there. You're there with a bunch of other people, and like you're there with people that you know from the Magic community that you like are inspired by or you admire to some degree.
Or you talk trash about on your podcast
100%.
sometimes.
You're in the same room with those people, but they don't know who you are, so it also doesn't matter. But you all like, and you don't know like who's rooting for who when you're playing the finals, and it's just like it's so compelling to be a part of that and to have that feeling and to be like, at one of the highest echelons of a sport. I would equate it to like being at a World Series or being at a Super Bowl or something like that, where it's just like the highest echelon of a particular competitive thing that you like, and watching it happen and play out in front of you. Not this most recent Super Bowl, very boring. Would not have imagined it would felt the same way as the finals of this Mythic Championship felt like.
Yeah, I think like the other like having watched I sat there and watched a lot of the top 8 in Spain when they had theirs set up and do that. That is the true like when you're paying attention to what Magic means to so many people diversity wise, and not just because of Autumn's historic victory, but I mean when you were sitting there with players who are watching, players from all different countries sitting there, and you're all just unified by this thing that you love and this thing that you're here to do. That it feels really nice. It is a cool feeling you don't always get. So
no,
when you're playing Magic, you're around all these people, but you're competing. But getting to just watch it and sit with everyone who's also just like you said, enamored in the same way.
Yeah,
it's like we're all little kids and we're all just watching this, and this is fun.
Right.
So I like that.
You just feel it a lot more.
100%.
Yeah.
You could feel. The thing is, in that room, even when you're that far away, everything is palpable. The tension is palpable. Like it is. If you didn't go to Cleveland, but you have a chance to go to London, if you do, you should just. If you have to go to London anyways, like congratulations, like London sounds great.
Let's just go. If you live there, I guess you're probably like, it's all right.
But in all seriousness, if you have a chance to go and be at one of these, now that they're combined, now that they're open, go do it. Like it may change the way you feel about, or at least how you've experienced some of these things.
100%. I was kind of back and forth on going, and then I finally decided to go a little bit because my wife threatened to make me clean if I didn't go.
Oh God, go!
So yeah, it wasn't that difficult of a decision to make necessarily, but I'm glad that I went because it was impactful. It was impactful for me. So it was cool. I didn't think it was going to be as a big of a deal as it actually was. So, let's talk about the top 8. Let's talk about who made it, who did the dang thing in top 8 of this tournament. This is a list in no particular order. We have Luis Scott Vargas, LSV, Marcio Cavallo, Reed Duke, Alex Magellan, Autumn Burchett, Julien Berteau, Yoshihiko Ikawa, and Michael Bonde. Now, he is always, everyone just calls him Michael Bonde, but it's Michael Bonde Plagard, apparently.
Oh, right. Literally, MTG Goldfish just says Michael Bonde.
Yeah. I was like, what? I just saw this. I am surprised. I didn't know that he actually had another, I just thought it was Michael Bonde. But needless,
people can have 3 names.
I
Luis Scott.
I never knew. I never knew he had that name.
No, again, Goldfish doesn't say it, so sorry.
Yeah. Apparently, they only know him as Michael Bonde as well. But so, if you couldn't tell, this is a super stacked, top 8. The name that I'm least familiar with is Julien Berteau, which is a French player, and he was a GP finalist, a national. He was in top 8 of nationals and 26th in PT Bilbao. So he's definitely played,
been around,
but yeah, for sure. But just not necessarily as known as the other players. Because I think Ikawa. I guess I thought that he had recently top 8'd something else, like another GP or something, but I guess not, because he's just at the top 8 of PC's San Diego.
Grand Prix Atlanta.
Yeah, wasn't that the? It doesn't list it on here.
Oh, he recent finishes in November. He top eighted Grand Prix Atlanta, which was with Modern with Tron, and he also top eighted Grand Prix Toronto early in 2018 with Tron.
Yeah, it's so weird. It doesn't have it on here. It just says previous Magic accomplishments. Top 8 PT San Diego 2010. And that's it. So I was like,
No, he top eighted 2 GPs last year. So.
yeah, it's like I remember that name from something. But like everyone else, obviously, if you take a look at the first 3 players, which are Cavallo, LSV, and Reed Duke, it's just like, the household names of Magic to a certain degree. And I mean, same thing if you're really big into Modern, then like Majoltan, you'll recognize that name. I really feel like he's someone that he's known for playing Affinity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And then Michael Bonde is just again another maybe less notable name, but still definitely someone that I knew of. Again, it feels like from Modern as well. And Auto Burchett. Auto Burchett, I've actually been like following their Magic history, Magic like career for a while. They were picked up on my radar from when they first started going to tournaments and like doing well. And I know like watching their sort of meteoric rise, while maybe not something that has necessarily been heavily featured until like recent, not like super recently, not like I'm saying this weekend, but they were a constant fixture, I feel like, in a lot of recent GPs that they attended. It's kind of unreal to think about this player that I didn't even know about maybe like 2 years ago, suddenly coming onto my radar. I'm watching them be successful in the tournament scene and then winning a PT is pretty wild. As like, I imagine that's what it's like when you follow like a college like a sports player, yeah. And you're like, nah, this guy's good. Or this person's good. I'm gonna watch him succeed, and then you do, and then they like win the World Series, and you're like, yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, maybe like in fantasy sports, that's what it is.
Yeah,
like I got that sleeper. I think like for Autumn, being mostly a European player,
yeah,
definitely just like inherently and unfortunately keeps some players under the radar, but. Their writing is where I started recently. After a couple of strong finishes, and then they won London's England's nationals, right?
I think so.
Okay, but like the writing for SCG has been stellar.
Previous college back-to-back English national champion.
Back-to-back. My apologies.
Yeah,
as a fellow back-to-back champion, Autumn, I welcome you to the club.
I don't think cube champion necessarily equates to national champion.
Hold on. It's important to me.
No disagreement there, I guess.
Autumn, I certainly don't think my accomplishments are better than yours, so I would assume you would not feel that way about me.
You're gonna play that game. All right, fair enough.
Champions are talking. So, but the writing for SCG, I started picking up on, and you can sort of tell when it's like, all right, I need to read this. I guess how I felt about like before she got picked up for WotC, but JD, like I was like, I need to read this. Like there are certain people I'm like, I don't care, but I need to read this. So watching the top 8, we had some pretty like incredible matches. Reed's Duke versus Majoltan in the first round was stellar, but watching Autumn march through the top 8 and annihilate 2 mono blue mirrors, which is so difficult to navigate. It was impressive, and then the finals with the Kawa are also just stellar.
There were a lot of good like in this entire like PT. There were a lot of like good going to game 5s.
Yeah, really, like just strong matches back and forth. But I just think of when you look at the decks that are hard to just like navigate a mirror. Like I laddered with mono blue mostly in best of 1 because I was laddering with it before there was traditional, but I really haven't wanted to try and sideboard with it. Like I don't really want to play against the mirror. I don't want to do it, and it was very impressive to see. Just the technical play. When here's the thing. I go, even though I find myself I look at myself as a very competitive player. I go to the shake sometimes and like cuts for top 8 for IQs. So sitting on that stage, navigating those mirrors is I can't imagine how taxing and exhausting it is to win with those tournaments, but let alone win a Pro Tour Mythic Championship playing a deck where you do not have margins. Like Mono Blue's a good deck, but it's not a deck that just like has a like unless you're just like attacking with a bunch of a million for Jins, you're pecking away with you're playing decks that have 1/1 unblockables in them. So it's it was just really fun to watch. It was just fun to watch.
And all of the matches that I was able to view were definitely entertaining. Were definitely good. It felt like this was a good PT, and felt like what's wild is also how Mono Blue was the tournament, like was the deck that took it down.
I mean, there's 3 copies of Mono Blue in this top 8.
Yeah, it's so funny. We kept talking about like when that deck first came out and it just being like kind of a joke deck that was super cheap on Magic Online.
It's still I'm MTG Goldfish. It's still 13 tickets.
And it just
you too can play the Pro Tour winning deck.
It's just so wild how the deck like had its champions and kept kind of just going, and then it's just kind of kept getting better until it got like a few cards from this most recent set, and it's a true contender. You know, it is.
It won.
Yeah,
so the tournament. So
and you know, people were comparing it a lot to kind of feeling like playing Delver. Which isn't surprising.
No, if a blind flip turn 1 Delver is a very similar feeling to the turn 1 creature into Curious Obsession. If they have any sort of protection for it, those games feel so. You're just like, even if I stabilize, they're still going to have 7 cards in hand. Like, how do I navigate this? So, and obviously, it should go without saying as we move forward to talk about this how we've already talked about how historic Autumn's win is. I don't know that it's mine or Morgan's place to really speak to the impact of that. But I will say this is that every single person that's won a Pro Tour was either a thinner version of me or a schlubby person like me. So I think we had some friends of the cast who we got to talk to like while we were there who it was a very moving and emotional moment for them. And I think if you saw Autumn and Emma, that is just something that I think that like cannot be overstated. That it is important. Magic's going through a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah,
and it's kind of it's enjoyable to see the community do that as well to some extent. So, it's something crazy that was pointed out to me that like, because our friend that I believe Autumn is the first non male to top 8 since Melissa DeTora did.
Yeah,
a Pro Tour. Melissa DeTora did that in Dark Ascension.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Like it was Dark Ascension. We had to go check, and then she immediately got hired by Watsy.
Yeah.
But it's like that's it. So pretty awesome. Pretty awesome for that. And as it was worded as like I think it was worded jokingly as no guy has won a Mythic Championship, which is awesome and hilarious.
That's very true.
So,
I mean, like, not to mention, this is historic for the UK. This is the first person.
I couldn't believe that.
This first British person.
I couldn't believe. I know. Like, okay. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised because like I could believe the other stats, right?
Yeah.
But like I also couldn't believe that someone British hadn't won.
I figured there was someone that had come up as a finalist, and they wished Autumn to take the whole thing down. So. I forget who it was though.
I'd have to go back and check. Whoever I try to remember the person. Whoever blind flipped the Helix was British, and that's as close.
Oh,
as
gotcha. Okay,
so,
yeah.
That's amazing to me. I feel
yeah.
For that one. I again I shouldn't be. I guess I shouldn't be more surprised for that than the other one. So there's that, but nice. Well, that's a twofer.
Exactly.
You just got to give me there. That's pretty nice.
I mean, that's just why like it was such a. It was such a like amazing kind of thing to be around because it was just so many firsts. First Mythic Championship, as well, and it was just. I'm glad that was in Ohio.
We can still call it Pro Tour every now and then. That's the one they kept slipping on.
Well, it's
too.
hard.
They called it Pro Tour.
I'm trying. But as far as like the event and everything that happened, I was glad I was there.
Yeah, I agree.
now we can do. Do we want to talk? So we already said there's three copies of Mono Blue here in the top eight. I know that in the finals there was Esper as well as being the
Let's
other
talk
deck.
about Esper because Esper actually had the best. So it didn't have the best conversion rate, but it had the best finish of the day two converted. So the people who got into day two had the best day two record with Esper, which I think is interesting because it got pummeled day one.
Yeah,
But those who managed to survive day two, that day two metagame flipped forward a little bit. And I want to at least mention Akawa's build because he it was, I guess, not super different, but he definitely went away we haven't seen too much, which is by overloading on Eldest. I would say overloading. We're playing Eldest Reborn both in the main and the sideboard.
yeah,
Which we saw be super relevant against a couple players when he played against LSV, which we'll talk about his deck. The Eldest Reborns were nightmares, which I think we haven't really seen too much about Esper, and we see a Kaya Orzhov Usurper in the sideboard,
yeah.
which was commonly his win condition
Yeah.
in boarded games. Like definitely, like Kaya getting a little bit of buzz for being able to in those grindy games, just use the alt to take out an opponent, which is kind of interesting. So. Beyond that, I don't know if there was too much here. You have 3 copies of Cast Down with a Moment of Craving. So we talked about in the cast last week, trying to figure out what the right 2-drop removal is when your field is going to be mono blue.
Yeah.
And Akawa seemed to do pretty good with that, or pretty well with that. So also those main deck Cry of Canariums were consistently good as well,
Yeah.
which has been a pretty common innovation for at least the last week or two.
Yeah, having the split of, usually 3 Kai's Wrath and 2 Cries.
Yeah.
But not too divergent from what people have been experimenting with, but still we see some interesting changes that really kind of shined over the weekend.
Next up, let's talk about LSV's deck. I want to talk about LSV's deck, and I'm going to try and sit in this room, but it's going to be hard because my head's going to get a little big.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I would, okay, Morgan, I know you won't, and I don't blame you, but I'd love for you just to slip in right now that moment of me saying I think that could go to the tape. You gonna do that for me?
That's asking a lot.
All right, it's fine. It's fine.
I'll see what I can do.
Maybe
If
that'll be here.
If you cut to another segment that we previously had on the show, surprise! I decided I wanted to do a little bit of work today.
If not, what I said was I think that Drake's decks, which are poorly positioned, could go back to Phoenix with a little bit of recursive threats and have a better chance. Drake's got destroyed at the Mythic Championship. The conversion rate was 40%. It was disgusting. But 7 players played Phoenix. All 7 of those players day 2'd, and LSV made it to the top 4 with 4 copies of those little Arclight Phoenixes. Whew, you call it? That's a call shot. That's a call shot.
In fact, a called shot. Yeah, and that's awesome. I was glad that we brought that up, and that was a discussion that was had for sure as things that could be innovative here at the Pro Tour, and it was clearly effective. I mean, to say that all 7 players that did play this version of the deck did day 2 is most certainly something. Can we just pause and how LSP is just insano, right? I don't know how he does this.
So when they're talking about what he wanted out of Sunday, they said on coverage that he said, "I want everyone to know how good I am," and I have to assume that's just his masterclass in trolling, right? It's what do you mean?
We get it.
As people are getting beaten up on their way to top 8, I understand. I don't know. He's very good.
Hey, there were no multiple 4s at this one though. I don't think
he mulled a little bit at the end. He definitely had a rough draw against Akawa in his match, and Akawa had it. If you go back and look, Akawa definitely at one point had double Cry of the Canary and double the Eldest Reborn. And when the Cries take care of the Phoenixes, and then your biggest threats are either Niv Mizzet or Kraken Drake, the Eldest Reborn looks real good. So now I do want to make mention of something out of the sideboard we haven't seen too much of, but is Sorcerer Spyglass. Especially if you look at Akawa's deck, the way that Akawa's deck is structured, in post-border games, if they could be boarding into the creature package that has Lyras and it has Thief of Sanity and some hostage takers, but depending on what their board, like what their build is post board and what you do, if you shut off Teferi, like you manage to resolve the Sorcerer Spyglass, they can't do much about it.
Right.
Like they're not playing Cleansing Nova, they're not playing like Ixalan's Binding. Like, do they have any permanent? Do they have any card that can deal outside of a counterspell? Obviously, like what's on the battlefield?
No, it definitely with certain builds of Esper, and I think it was similar to Akawa's. Like once you have a non-creature permanent on the battlefield,
Well,
sometimes
Mortify can deal with enchantments.
That's true. That's true.
But
like an artifact, it definitely is sort of a blind spot.
Yeah, and I think like in a deck like this where you can either put it down on 2 and like avoid some counter magic, or play it on 4 and keep negate up. It's tough to like when they resolve that. That's a tough card to beat because you can have all your card advantage you have your cards, but what's your win condition? You know what I mean? Like you better board it in the creature stuff. Like you better have done it this way. You better have prepared for that. Now on the top 8, of course, Ikawa could have seen that, but I do wonder how that happened for Esper, where if they got caught, they get caught with their pants down in game 2 and they're down a game, like that's it.
Yeah,
it's fine. And if you're up a game and they don't have a win condition, they're gonna have to concede. So that's where the Kaya can be important.
Yeah,
but I think it's good tech. I think it's one of those cards that people have sort of forgotten about. But if you look at the deck constructions of a lot of things, it might be something to at least look at for the current builds of Esper.
Yeah, just to make sure you have it on your radar.
And it also turns off like search as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it does on here. Maybe as long as it doesn't say non-land.
Oh, I guess that's true.
On here. I tried to click on it, and now I'm going to happy.us lucky.top. Congratulations, I won a Walmart gift card.
You won a Walmart gift card?
Not. I did not win a Walmart
congratulations. Gift card. Don't spend it all in one place. Oh, I guess you have to.
Well, I mean, I guess I could go to like different Walmart websites. I don't. Yeah, I went to a different Walmart because I couldn't spend this all in one place. Yeah,
you can name it's unless they're mana abilities.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I figured. So.
Oh man. Well, while Mike fills out his, registration to get that Walmart gift card.
It wants my social security number, but I need this.
You should you should give it to him. 100%.
Okay, I was making sure.
Use your wife's. There you go.
It asked if I had a spouse, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
so.
There you go. Does it ask you what your first pet's name was?
No, but it wants to know the street I grew up on.
Oh, okay.
Is it give me a gift card, or is it figuring out like my stripper name? Like I'm trying to figure out which one that is.
All right, let's move on to the next deck. So we have Marcio Cavallo playing Azorius Aggro. And, this is similar to a lot of the builds that we saw previously to led up to the Mythic Championship. We don't see any the guy that exiles things, the detention sphere man.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Detention man.
Detention man. Yeah,
Yeah.
The guy for the Breakfast Club.
Detention man.
Detention man.
You mess with the bull, you get the detention
man. We don't see any of those. The blue splash is mainly for sideboard cards. Spell Pierce.
No, it just is. There's no blue cards in the main.
Correct.
So it's for negate, disdainful stroke, and spell pierce.
Yep.
So, his build's pretty straightforward. I will say. I don't really like this deck, except it has a really good mono blue matchup.
Yeah.
Like it probably has out of the decks that are good enough in the metagame, because mono red, while we're going to talk about the Gruul aggro deck, which is pretty much mono red, top aided, it did really bad overall at the championship, and its numbers consistently have been pretty bad. So this is the deck that you probably want to play that has the most game against like some of the format, but can just beat up mono blue, because this deck just outraces mono blue pretty hard.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk Gruul aggro since that's next as well, since that's the red one?
Yeah, we'll talk about Gruul quotes.
Mono red. It's this is like the mono white aggro deck. The green cards on the board.
The green cards are in the sideboard. So this looks like your fairly standard mono red deck. Looking at the 60, the 15 for the sideboard do look a little bit different. We are splashing for Cindervines. And theoretically, Collision Colossus. If you want to give something +4/+2 and trample, which might happen a lot.
I definitely I like Collision Colossus as a sideboard card because you just got to kill Iris. You want more things against mono blue, but sometimes you just got to hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need that fastball special, and you got a Colossus.
And theoretically, you could be putting this on a like a 4/4 Steamkin or something like that, and really do a lot of damage.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. For Cindervines though is definitely where it's at. With the Esper decks and the Nexus decks,
Yeah.
that is a card I definitely like. And having 4, like, you have chances multiple times to get 2 of them into play, and oh man, that's just tough for those decks to beat. So I do like that splash for Cinderbites. Otherwise, it's pretty much straight up Mono Red. No Skewer the Critics, though, which is a card that got a lot of hate recently as being like, you know what, maybe not good enough.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just for the sheer fact that, like, when you're taking a look at I think that they came to the conclusion that just like velocity is the best way to go. So that's why you still have, Skewer the Critics, and that's why we're moving back to like Experimental Frenzy.
right.
That just makes your deck go faster. You basically get to draw more cards, and that feels like the way to go with Mono Red. Next up after that, it was our last unique deck is Michael Bonde playing Simic Nexus. Nexus decks were the second most represented day one deck. So people really like the strategy. Only in best of 3 though, not in best of 1. Can't do that in best of 1. And I think like this is surpassed Bant Nexus as being the version of if you're going to play Nexus of Fate, this is probably the shell you're going to be playing it in. And I don't know, they can't stand these decks. I think they're really annoying, and I don't like them.
Playing them on Arena is still pretty much like if they ever cast like 3 Nexus, like sequentially get to the 3rd Nexus of Fate, I generally just concede. I'm like, my life is worth more than this,
Right?
Because they don't have to advance the board state and can't time out still. So that ban, wasn't effective. Whatever. Yeah, that's fair. Now, I think there's, and we can talk about it when we come across it, but there's definitely a Wilderness Reclamation deck that was interesting that wasn't Nexus of Fate.
Was it the Teamer Reclamation?
The Teamer one was pretty spicy.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about that.
The other important, I guess, thing about this deck is it does have a bit of a transformational sideboard. So it only has 2 creatures main deck, which are 2 Hydroid Krasis. But in the sideboard, we actually have a sort of mana acceleration package along with Biogenic Ooze, as well as a Nezahal, theoretically. And basically, the idea behind this is that, maybe in your sideboard games, you just want to accelerate until you can like land a Biogenic Ooze, and then that's your new win condition, or land a Nezahal, and that's how you're going to be closing out the game. And I think it's fairly common to see in these decks. We also see the 3 of the Atsukan Archer for those mono blue decks. So definitely watch out for that snipey boy. Gonna get you. But yeah, other than that, I think these decks are tedious, and I was pretty okay with watching Michael Bonde kind of get handed it handed to him by Ikawa, because Ikawa stole a bunch of spells using a Thief of Sanity.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Thief of Sanity, so I was happy to see that happening. But those are our unique top 8 deck lists, and it did seem kind of surprising not to see a Sultai list.
Yeah, Sultai was the most represented deck.
Correct.
By a fair margin at the Mythic Championship, and didn't have the best of a weekend. It did have a 110 wins in standard player, and Noah Ma, but no one is able to crack into the top 8 with it, which is pretty interesting. And if you look, we got a number of them in the 8 win the range, but kind of interesting for the deck that seems to be close to what we would consider like the best deck in the format, sort of get knocked around a little bit. So it's got to innovate, I think, a little bit. Most of the lists we saw were pretty standard, and maybe it's got to innovate. Cards I saw Noah Ma has access to at least 1 Ritual of Soot, which is not a bad place to be against like mono white and mono blue.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the way we go, but it's sort of interesting. I'm just gonna rapid fire a few decks at you, and we could talk about them. 8. So what are you looking at for your deck list right now, Morgan?
I don't have anything pulled up. So.
Okay, I'll just go through then. 8 wins. Timothy Wu playing Gruul midrange. Morgan, you like this deck? This deck is Direfleet Daredevils, Growth Chamber Guardians, 4 main deck Cruel Harpooners, or
Yeah.
Crawl Harpooners, Goblin Chain Whirler, Gruul Spellbreaker, Rekindling Phoenix, and Skargan Hellkite, with Shocks, Lava Coils, Lightning Strikes, and Collision Colossuses. This is your like pure Gruul mid range. Like it is good. We've got some Planeswalkers on the sideboard, and of course your Cinder Vines. But this deck is interesting. We've seen these builds. This is not the version that has the
Unclaimed territory.
unclaimed territory. So like this is not trying to push that hard, but like making the decision to just go ahead and just play all the Crawl Harpooners. I have to assume that led to his some free wins for him, especially in game ones.
Oh yeah, and theoretically, you could still play this deck with unclaimed territory. You have a significant amount of warriors that's still
Warriors.
You could still feel fairly comfortable.
Harpooner's a warrior.
Harpooner's a warrior. That's very important to point out. So you still have what is it? 16. Because you have the Chamber Guardians, the Harpooners, the Chain Whirlers, and the Spellbreakers that are all warriors.
I'd like to try that over the Gruul Guild Gates, maybe.
Yeah, I think that could be an easy change to just see how it feels.
Yeah,
maybe you don't keep it, but it could just be good enough. Now can I use my giant oversized stomping ground to?
Yes,
play?
Absolutely. Morgan got himself a giant oversized stomping
ground. I did.
So.
I got a giant oversized card.
Good.
That's been one of my goals at a GP for a while now because I like to put a bunch of nerdy stuff up in my home. So it'll soon find its rightful place.
I don't know what that's like.
Clearly I can tell when looking around that you barren walls everywhere.
I already have an oversized card.
Oh,
the Chandra.
Yeah, it's must be
mine has
nice.
A real magic back, not that.
Not the fake magic back.
Yeah, though we want this to be Magic's back. But we can't,
exactly.
So we'll put them in oversized cards.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much what it is. So that was a fun accomplishment for me. I met a personal goal over the weekend, which was nice. Mine was fairly minor compared to some of the other people that were there meeting personal goals.
Autumn Burchett wins. We have the first Mythic Championship and. Morgan won an oversized.
Let's bring him up here.
Ground.
Come on, you're part of this too. No.
Next up, I want to talk about Merfolk real quick. Ralph Levy went 8-2. Only because, man, I'm fairly certain. Can you find the clip for that one too, where I mentioned that maybe Merfolk was a deck that.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, okay, maybe the credit should go to Emma
making
Handy,
all the calls.
who wrote about it for a month straight. I don't know. Maybe she gets it, but. Merfolk here is pretty straightforward. 4 Mythic Biomancer, 4 Jade Bearer, 4 Kumeta Speaker, 4 Deeproot Elite, 4 Merfolk Mistbinder, 2 Merfolk Trickster, 4 Silver Girl Adept, 4 Kumeta, 4 Incubation Incongruity, 4 Deeproot Waters, lands. So now this is a deck that also gets to play 4 Crawl Harpooner in the sideboard, plus a lot of counter magic. But this is kind of an interesting deck. It's based around Kumeta. The 4 Deeproot Waters is, I think, pretty important to make sure you have enough creatures all the time to go with it, because you're pretty you definitely have you're not actually playing the traditional Lord, which I think is interesting. You're not playing the 2-drop Lord. But the cool interactions here, and he mentioned this, is that once you really get going, you can kind of combo out of this deck because you can keep. Casting creatures and then using Merfolk. I'm sorry, Mistbinder isn't here. My apologies. You can use Deeproot Elite to put a counter on any target Merfolk, so then you can put it onto the Benthic Biomancer to loot.
Yeah.
And you can really, between that and Kumeta, you can churn through a lot of your deck. So it's kind of interesting when you look at it. So I think he's had 3 people played this, and he was the only one who did well with it. So it's Ralph Levy, Hall of Famer, maybe an outlier. But if you've been looking for Merfolk, or you've been reading like Emma Handy has been talking about it for a while, you've got to feel pretty happy to see that deck get a good finish.
I also want to give a shout out to the deck that's above it, Ryan Cubit playing Mardu aggro.
Oh yeah.
So this is your Judith Scourge Diva sort of kind of deck. We were playing with Judith and Tajik, but we have Hero Precinct 1. This is another sort of one of these hero decks that I definitely like. A lot of what this deck is doing is very synergistic, and it feels like it feels like something is there.
No, I agree. This deck feels like it's cooking. I don't disagree with that at all. Fireblade Artist is very good here. You get the Fireblade Artist Gutterbones combo, which if you've ever had that in Guild's Ravnica Allegiance Limited, It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love heroic reinforcements in this deck.
Yeah.
Right, like because like it triggers your hero.
Yep. And then
Like
your token that you make gets the benefit from it.
yeah,
There's a lot going on.
Priest of the Forgotten Gods is a way to like turn on like some Judith triggers. It's
Yeah.
pretty spicy. Especially with, like Footlight Fiend, because like Footlight Fiend and then sacking things to Judith or with Judith can actually lead you to killing creatures you probably shouldn't be able to kill.
Yep.
So yeah, I like this deck is spicy.
This deck has another deck that has Kaya in it as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I wonder why.
I don't know. It's just another like kind of sticky permanent that you can come in and then it does a lot of things to make kill your opponent.
I guess make it your opponent. That's fair.
And if you're playing a deck like this, you don't have to have Kaya going as long for it to they're going to be at a much lower life total.
That is true
by design. But I mean, this is
ults pretty quickly. So
this deck, I feel like that it needs something just a little bit more.
I think it needs tuned a little bit here. Some of these things seem all over the place. Like Ongroth sounds like maybe a little bit too cute. Both in the main and in the sideboard, that's pretty expensive. Experimental Frenzy looks like a card this deck would want access to, maybe over some things like Kaya. I don't know because it has one in the sideboard, but like I want more. I would actually be more interested, I think, in trying out. If you're going to do Experimental Frenzy, I might be interested in trying out like Theater of Horrors in this deck.
Yeah.
So
very, very true. That's going to have a definitely a similar effect, and with something else that you have, with a lot of the things you have going on, then you're going to be able to consistently be able to cast those cards. So, it definitely feels like either something that needs to get tuned, or maybe something that we see come out in War. But this deck feels close. This feels like a deck that. Let me take a look here. Man, you do have a lot of humans in this deck.
And so maybe unclaimed territory.
Maybe like I don't know if that's where you need your.
Oh, they should be playing Thalia's Lieutenant.
Dang it! I don't know. I don't know if mana is where you want to look to fix what's going on here or anything like that, or improve things. But maybe again, it's one of those things where you need to push where you think you need to go and kind of reevaluate the cards that you're playing to get to that next echelon.
Yeah, that's fair. I do like that list a lot, though. There's a couple interesting aggro decks. There was also the Vampire Mardu as well. That was a Judith deck that I was playing Maverick Fane.
Oh yeah.
So there were a couple different builds that way. Let's talk about quickly Team of Reclamation, Pascal Maynard. This is the deck I was telling you about. That is what Wilderness Reclamation would be and could be without Nexus of Fate. And this deck just wants to play a lot of like counter spells and removal and draw a billion cards and then land a Niv Mizzet where you get to untap at the end of the turn. And the games where you get to untap with Niv Mizzet on your own turn, you probably cannot lose those games.
Gosh.
But this can still do what Todd Anderson was trying to do at the beginning of the format was just using Wilderness Reclamation stacks to kill you with Explosion.
Yeah.
And this can do that too. But the counter magic and untapping with the visit like this, I get to play this against. Already have played against this a couple times on Arena. There are games where you feel hopeless.
Yeah.
They just they get to Reclamation, and it's just that's it. Goodbye. Growth Spiral feels disgusting in this deck. Like, this is the one where those land drops count, because if you're trying to race to Niv Mizzet and they're getting it on turn 5 instead of 6, it's a world of difference. So this deck's scary to me. I think this deck's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think I can overstate how good I actually think this deck is, because it should, like, when you look at this, you're like, but like Mono Blue will beat it, right? I don't think so. Like, I don't think I can overstate how good Niv Mizzet is against Mono Blue. So, like, they can only Merfolk Trickster it so many times before they just die. And while Mono Blue can, like, keep control of the board, it's not a very fast deck. And this deck still has 4 copies of Shivan Fire, main deck copies of Fiery Cannonade, plus its own counter magic in, Syncopate and, 4 copies of Sinister Sabotage, also Expansion Explosion. So...
I think, in honesty, if the red sweeper that we have in stand currently didn't say non-pirate, this deck would be probably a lot better. But not hitting, like not being able to hit all of the mono blue threats or even the mono red threats technically with your 3 mana sweeper is annoying.
I don't disagree. I just knowing that you're going to get to the visit so quickly though. Mono red can
Yeah.
definitely fare better against this deck, but mono red's bad.
It's still kind of bad.
So
I don't disagree with that, but I'm just imagining all the times playing this deck and then them being like turn 1 Siren Sword Tamer, turn 2 Curious Obsession. You're just like looking at the looking at the fiery candidate, being like, "Why are you a pirate?"
yeah, I mean that's probably true, but you probably just killed it with Shivan Fire,
Well,
right?
hopefully,
Like,
hopefully.
I like in the sideboard like you're talking about the mono red deck being a little. You're just like I'm gonna board in a Gift of Paradise against you guys. I'm still gonna ramp. I'm gonna gain 3 life. So that deck was pretty sweet. A couple other quick hits. You had Joel Larson playing Bant mid range.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I actually shared a list that's similar.
Yeah, they were playing a Johnny instead of a Dovin, which is what I was interested in. Was the Dovin? But
And they have like some incubation and incongruities as well. I kind of like. I played a little bit with this list before, like the PT happened, and it wasn't this list exactly. It was a similar list. But March of the Multitudes is still a dumb Magic card, and you should not
forget it.
You should not, yeah, you should not sleep on it. I mean, this deck, with 7-3, which is still a good record for sure. But I really like a lot of the things that are definitely going on with this deck. And if you want to play a really really fun hero of Precinct 1 deck, this is definitely one of those decks.
Can you talk about how good Hero Precinct 1 is with March of the Multitudes?
Yeah,
You just play regular Magic, and oops, I have a million creatures.
right, exactly.
Let's double them up.
And you just have like you have the availability to play something like Knight of Autumn in your main deck. You have a deck that you can actually play Shauna. Interestingly enough, to
Pretty good Shauna deck, actually.
100%. But yeah, I do like a lot of what's going on with his deck. I still like the Dovins better, just because I think I like Dovin better as a planeswalker. The Ajani, in my opinion, isn't as powerful. I don't think the 2-drops that you're looking to bring back are as good, like theoretically. Maybe that's just a meta call for this particular tournament, and we do have the Dovin in the sideboard. Maybe I'm just a stand for that Dovin bond, but
me too. Oh my gosh, I am.
but I do that card. I just for the sheer fact that I've like ultimated Dovin, and like it's so good. It's just so good to have like the super dig through time, and you're just like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, I enjoy it very much.
But I this is the kind of deck I'm probably gonna play a little bit more of it now that the season restarted on Arena. And this is definitely where I'm going to probably start. And again, going back, this is another deck that can play Crawler Harpooner. Crawler Harpooner does a pretty good synergy with Johnny as well. So
it does, yeah, definitely. That's a good one to bring back.
So definitely keep that in mind if Mono Blue continues to be fairly popular.
Last, I want to mention 2 Dimir decks, which sounds weird to say. Both these are 7-3. The first one is Shintaro Ishimura. I'm gonna give you some creatures, Morgan.
Yeah.
2 Lazav the Multifarious.
Yeah.
1 Night Veil Predator.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a 3/3 flyer, Death Touch, and Hexproof. Playing also 4 Thieves Sanity, so I think you'll like that one. 4 Hostage Taker, 4 Kitesail Freebooter, which I think that card's super underrated right now.
Yeah.
Kitesail Freebooter, especially against so I've been playing a version of the Rakdos mid-range deck right now, and I didn't like Direfleet Daredevil, so I've been trying out Kitesail Freebooter. Makes the mana a little tougher.
Yeah.
But against the Nexus decks that don't not the not the Teamer one we just talked about, the regular Nexus decks, they can't really interact with it. So you can hold things pretty much the entire game without any sort of fear, especially Nexuses themselves. And guess what? Those don't shuffle back in.
They just stay under that.
So
Freebooter.
I did a lie there, right? Hold on here. Okay, this is not the. Okay, for some reason I was thinking this was the 4 one, but yeah, it's interesting. It's really interesting. So, yeah, this deck is crazy. It's just playing a lot of removal. to go down with it. Some protection stuff like 1 dive down to the main, 1 duress in the main, 1 spell pierce in the main. What? But sideboard it just opens up to again more stuff. There's Plague Mare there, which is pretty sweet. When your blue-black deck has to have Chain Whirler, and Karns, which are good card advantage for this. But a Lazav deck.
Man, how many mono white players were super upset to see Plague Mare being like, I'm gonna die to that. Cool.
Like,
I can't block it.
This
Nice.
card, is this legal?
I haven't seen this horse.
Hey, screw you and the horse that you plagued in on. And
Why do you bring that sick horse here?
man. The other one is Seth Manfield playing Dimir mid-range. Now, his is a little more straightforward with Thief, Sanity, Hot Stakers, and Doom Whisperers, and a lot of removal. But 3 copies of Disinformation Campaign.
Yeah, this
Seth
is
Manfield brought a Disinformation Campaign to the Pro Tour and went 7-3 with it.
Yeah, this is definitely more of the Dimir mid-range decks that we saw pre Ravnica Allegiance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a while ago. This deck, the fact that you have 2 7-3 Dimir decks blows my mind, and they're so wildly different.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he didn't even really add that many cards from Allegiance. We have Cry the Carnarium as being like the big get. Everything else is old hat.
LSV won that race because LSV played one round.
Blood.
It was a blood crypt,
Yeah,
but I agree. No, I like again multiple copies of duress in the main, multiple copies of fungal infection. Seems fine against like mono blue.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting. There were some other kind of spicy decks. There was a couple Rakdos mid-range decks, a couple like Nexus of Gates decks. I know there was a couple other like some Vant builds and those sorts of things. Once you get down to the 6 wins, again you get to some Slesna tokens, which made a bit of a push on day 1, but outside of like Joel Larson and those finishes, didn't really do much.
Joso was the player who was playing the Vampire Mardu deck.
Okay, yeah. Also an interesting build. So, the Pro Tour really did shake out with, we said last week, like, were there going to be big new archetypes, and you could look at a couple of the Mardu aggro decks, the Judith builds that are interesting, and you could look at, like, I think you could look at, like, Temur Reclamation as a bit of a different build, but for the most part, the decks coalesced under the sort of 5 major things here, and we saw a lot of cool, cool build choices and transitions. We saw how important sideboards are for effective gameplay. Would be awful to get to play things like Crawl Harpooner or Duress or Negate, wouldn't it? Right?
Hey, you could play Crawl Harpooner main. We already saw that.
We saw some Duresses in the main too. I guess that's it. Those are the decks you gotta play.
Yeah,
Just cross your fingers. Play 4 Crawl Harpooners in the main for the Mythic Invitational.
Yeah.
And then watch as you literally play that on turn 2 against the next decks every game, and you go, but why?
Hey, it's a 3-2 for 2. I mean, you're just attacking for 3.
Yep.
Yep.
You did it.
So I want to play the Gruul deck. I do want to play Rhythm of the Wild, and I want to make a giant Crawl Harpooner that has haste. It can't attack when it's like a 9-2 or something. I don't know. That kind of sounds fun. Maybe. But yeah, I don't think we saw anything that was too out of left field in relation to the Mythic Championship. But I think that's okay. I think that's what we expected, and that's kind of something that we are, realistically, that's something that we're expecting with them not being so tied to, set release. And, for London's going to be modern. I guess one thing we didn't talk about, actually.
Yeah, we can come back to that. I think when we get closer,
we'll talk about that.
They're going to try out that new Mulligan rule.
There's going to be a new Mulligan rule.
Until we get really closer to it and see it in action, I don't think there's much to say other than they're trying a new Mulligan rule.
Correct.
So,
and yeah, I think like this all in all, while a lot of it was expected, there's still some things to talk about, and it was really groundbreaking for other reasons outside of the decks. And all in all, again, even though people have a hard time, continuing to call it a Mythic Championship, I still think it was a fairly successful weekend.
No, we've talked about some negativity and some frustrations, and this was good all around for WotC. They put on a good show. Obviously, good send off for
For Brian David Marshall, yeah, for
but
sure.
I get to shake his hand and say some nice things
That's
too,
good.
and he seemed to be enjoying his weekends, which is good. But just like it was a really good showing for. I don't know what the numbers were for Twitch, but I know they did pretty well, at least on Sunday. So.
Yeah. They that was their best day. They had like somewhere around 50K, I think, when I was watching. So
Yeah, you cannot be upset about that. So.
no, not at all.
So yeah, it was a good show, and we'll see how they continue with the Mythic Championships. But
Get better naming conventions. Figure it out.
yeah, that's true.
But that's going to be it for the competitive talk. We are actually going to cut to a interview that we mentioned before that we had with Dan Musser. So we'll cut to the interview, and then we'll be back to finish out the show.
We'll practice this.
Yeah. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am at Mythic Championship 1 in Cleveland, and I'm sitting here with Dan Musser.
What's happening?
Those of you listening may remember Dan used to be a pretty strong grinder, making a lot of SCGU appearances and various Pro Tour appearances. But now, what do you do, Dan?
Now I'm a part of Wizards of the Coast R&D. So I got hired on the play design team about a year and a half ago, and yeah, they sent me out to Cleveland, my home, to sort of get response from the public on how we're doing and all things R&D related and Wizards related in general.
Nice. Yeah, so I use this as a blatant, shameless attempt to take a person who I went to high school with and make them make content for me.
How's
So,
Katie?
She's doing great, actually.
Excellent.
So she's working down in Columbus in engineering. A lot smarter than me.
Aren't
Wasting
they
her time
all?
making magic content, that's for sure. But hey, so tell me, are you enjoying it? Do you miss the grinding life?
I miss grinding a little, but I really like the Seattle area, which is where Wizards of the Coast headquarters is located in Renton, Washington. And I like the people I work with. I enjoy the job. It's sort of a dream come true. And I miss my friends and family, obviously. I lived here for 31 years and then moved away. And so, of course, I'm going to miss them, but I'm very happy.
Fair enough. So what's your, in your day-to-day, what's your biggest challenge, the thing you do that you find maybe the most engaging?
Oh, that's interesting. So the role of play design is to sort of test the standard and limited formats a bit before it all releases into the wild to make sure things are fun, inviting, replayable, exciting, all these kinds of things. And the day-to-day, it really depends on the person. Everyone's schedule is different. We have meetings. It's a very collaborative process, designing Magic cards and testing them and getting feedback, and then synthesizing the feedback into action that you take on cards, whether it's adjusting mana costs or building brand new abilities on cards. But the day-to-day is you come in, you may build a couple decks, find another play designer, jam some games for a couple hours, talk about the games you played, what was fun, what wasn't going well, what couldn't work out, and then we have larger meetings with people from that do more of set design, which is they're responsible for all the text on the cards, and we're responsible for sort of like running them through the gauntlet and changing numbers and very collaborative, busier than you would think. Definitely do get to play a lot of Magic, but also it's a lot of talking about Magic.
That's fair. So that going to that side, and you obviously bring a grinder's eye to that, that's kind of nice. And I think people who still play on this side were very happy. Play design is something that I think that we have seen make an impact on recent sets.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
So, but what do you miss most about grinding?
What do I miss most about grinding? I do miss you could say I miss the competitive drive, but everyone in play design is really strong, so it's not that you're not really playing to win when you're trying to test these things out. You're just playing to get the reps in with these cards and have them, get eyeballs on them and played. So, but you do want to beat him. Like, I want to beat Michael. I want to beat Andrew. I want to win still. But I miss competing. I miss winning tournaments or trying to win tournaments as hard as I can. And I still get to travel a little bit, so I don't have to miss that a ton. I don't miss driving in a car for 10 hours. That's something
fair.
I do not miss, I'll tell you that. But the area here, I miss my family, I miss my friends. Competition and winning.
That makes sense.
I suppose.
Hey, this 10-hour car ride's gonna be okay if you have the right people in it. But yeah, you definitely have gotten to travel.
You can only play Name the Casting Cost so many times.
It's true.
I'm sorry.
We got to see you in Japan, right? You got to go do some coverage.
I did. So I did. I did coverage for Japanese nationals in Renton, though. So we were covering Japanese national martial and I, and but yeah, just providing a little bit of a weekend activity for players to view on Twitch. I work a little bit on the card game called Duel Masters, which we make for Japan, and I got to go to Japan to meet the people that help make it there. So that was awesome.
Nice. I'm going to sort of combine these next two. So, obviously, you've gained some perspective then being behind, the curtain, so to speak. And I know that we, as people who love Magic, but also produce content weekly, get a little bit frustrated. I say we, Morgan, is the one recording this, but we sometimes get a little frustrated when we get announcements that seem incomplete or we want more information. And so, what advice do you have for someone who can sort of see more of the timeline than the we can on the outside?
Yeah, it's hard to try and put ourselves in the shoes of those not behind the curtain and how these announcements may or may not look. There's Wizards of the Coast is a very large business. There's I don't know exactly how many employees, but around the area of 300 to 400. There's a lot of different departments, and you're getting announcements from all of them essentially. And there's a team that organizes all that. But there's just a lot of moving pieces, and keeping it all churning and going forward is quite a difficult task. So it may not look like it when you see an announcement that looks like it's the tip of an iceberg, because there's more announcements to come, or it just needs to be released in that order, just so it makes sense in the long run, and you'll see the whole picture eventually. You just unfortunately have to have a little bit of patience with us. But,
that could be hard for us, but we'll
yeah,
do it,
I mean, clearly everyone wants to know everything all the time, and that just can't happen. We'd spoil our surprises, and then if you just have all the information all at once at the beginning, what would you have to look forward to?
I guess that's fair. All right, I'm going to hit you here to end this up with a couple of rapid-fire questions. So these may be a little more personally aimed, and maybe to something I just need to know for myself. To be honest, I can take it.
The public wants to know.
Who's the better baseball player? Dan and I used to play baseball in the same league. Came went to high school, played our city league. It's great. Who's a better baseball player? You and me.
Well, I play on the Wizards of the Coast softball team now. So, I assume you're not at your end-step softball team.
No, I do run our my friend group softball.
Oh, you have a softball team too? Okay.
Yeah. So I've been playing many seasons now for that.
Many seasons?
Yeah.
Oh, you probably got me then.
Yes. All right.
I just restarted.
I'll take that one personally. Who's a better Guitar Hero player?
Ooh, I hope it's me. I had a bunch of when it came. I don't know when Guitar Hero 2 was on PlayStation, or whatever. I was taking screenshots. Well, you can't take screenshots back then. I was taking pictures with my phone and then posting them on Facebook. So I had a bunch of 100%. So
that's good.
I hope it's me.
Did you ever manage to finish through the Fire and the Flames?
I did. I got 4 stars.
All right. I could not do that. I think when you and I
you
played
got to get
together,
the intro.
I couldn't do
you
it.
have to just practice the intro and come up with whatever gimmick. If you want to rubber band the top green button or whatever it is, find your gimmick to get through.
Okay, you know what? The mere fact that you just said that, I'm going to give that one to you.
You had to elbow start the thing, because you need to tap through the Fire and Flames intro with both hands, which means you need to elbow strum to hit the button. It's a mess. It's a mess. But after the intro, you can actually play the song like a normal, very difficult song.
Fair enough. The mere fact that you have the technical prowess to figure out how to break the guitar.
Me and my one college buddy, we tried for hours practicing the intro just to get through it.
Last question: who's a better Magic player?
Oh, it's not about who's a better Magic player. better. So this will give you another. We'll go back to R&D. The word "better" is so it's just not very helpful.
It's fair.
We need to talk about like strengths and weaknesses and severity of degrees. It's just like better is so subjective, right? You could have better results, but maybe I could be better. Being people relate with me more. I don't know. So like subjectively, better is not very helpful. Who's the stronger Magic player? Well, that's me.
Wow. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, I just want to remind everybody here that during the PPTQ season, before he entered R&D, one of us left literal money on the table.
Yeah.
And one of us won. And
so my theory with that was that we had so many PPTQs in the area, and they were all like win boxes or whatever.
That's true.
So you could not play in a PPTQ once you'd won one. You were locked out. So my theory was I would just play in every PPTQ, lose in the finals until the last one, and my theory was I could choose when I would win, right? I would strike when the moment I wanted to, so I could play in all of them, win all the finals prizes, and then finally qualify. That did not work out. I was defeated, and summarily not invited.
Now that did lead to my lone Pro Tour appearance, but you had
see, I helped
more than that,
contribute.
so I'll give you that too. So, all right, well, thanks for answering. Honestly,
Yeah.
you kind of quibbled at the end, but I'll give it to you.
Good to be on.
So, but it was really good to see you. I miss even coming to Cleveland here because it's my area. The people I've seen, it makes me happy just to see all the familiar faces. So I'm sure for you that's probably
Absolutely,
tenfold.
yeah.
So,
Everyone, I feel like I know half the people in the room with the Magic Fest.
So, well, that was Dan Musser, and hope you enjoyed. Thanks, Dan.
Take care.
All right. I hope you folks enjoyed that interview that we had with Dan, and thank you again, Dan, for taking the time out of your day to give us some knowledge, give us some insight as to who you are and what you do.
Best part is I get the last say, and I'm the better Magic player.
Fair enough.
And you know why? Because he can't prove it anymore. Boom, baby. Take that.
You did it. You really showed him up.
I just dunked all over Dan.
Congratulations.
So I did it.
But yeah, so that was our episode this week.
I understand. You sound like the worst essay writer in the world right now. So this was the essay that I just wrote.
So I just wrote this essay.
Hope you enjoyed reading the essay that I wrote.
This is my conclusion, and I really hope that you liked it. And
in conclusion, this is the end of the paper you're reading that I wrote.
And I just really needed to get to the next page so I could meet the minimum requirement for it.
As long as I say exactly 3 more words, I will have hit the word count. Thank you very much.
It's good night. Good night, Toronto. Over the weekend, we have Magic Fest LA, which is going to be modern and going to be covered.
Has some sweet video coverage. With
Has some video
they
coverage.
show the team. It's like LSV. I think Huey's one of them. Should be good.
Yeah, and it'll be actually on Channel Fireball's channel.
Yeah, they will not be on the mothership channel.
So make sure you update your follows if you want to catch that sweet coverage. And there's also going to be Star City Games Syracuse, which is Legacy or is it team event?
It is Legacy. It's
Okay.
Legacy.
Okay. So if Legacy's your jam, now's the time. Give all of that sweet Legacy main event coverage your eyeballs. But if you like standard, sorry, there's nothing for you this weekend. You should have watched all the Pro Tour.
Go back. I think they replayed the top 8
They
again.
they
today,
just go back and watch all the Pro Tour.
So if you didn't
Done.
watch that, do that.
Yeah, and ignore all the other coverage that's happening this weekend.
So and see if you if you didn't see it and see I think it was Barich's hat, but Autumn wore
Correct.
that hat. Oh my god, I love that hat.
Yeah, it's good.
I
It's
like
a good hat.
I like hats, and I was like, man, not only you winning the Pro Tour, but you're winning that hat.
That hat.
Yeah, that was sweet.
It's it was definitely a tournament that I think a lot of people are going to remember for a very long time.
I think if you're listening, you might think I'm being sarcastic about that hat. I need you to know I'm not. I'm
He's
very
not.
sincere.
He's not.
That hat. That hat.
That hat.
That hat. That hat.
That hat.
That's it. I'm done talking. That
All right,
hat.
that
I'm
hat.
out.
All right. Well, I have to continue to close out the show. You could definitely reach out to us if you'd like. We have a Mike. Before I do that, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon because Mike didn't do show notes.
It's there at the top again. You missed it. You made me say something besides the hat. You're a monster. Thank you for those that do. I was gonna say patronize us, but that sounds
sounds negative.
Context. I don't know. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes. And if you want to find out more about our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/@yourendstep. If you want to reach out to us, you can do so via multiple methods. It's Twitter. So if you reach out to us via our Twitter, it's @yourendstep. And when you add us, it's @yourendstep. We also have Facebook, so it's facebook.com/@yourendstep, or an email. @yourendstep@gmail.com. Also, if you're listening to us via one of your iProducts or your Apple whatever, definitely leave us a rating or a review. It definitely helps give us visibility and gets more listeners to the show. If you are listening to us via legit MTG, thank you for picking us up. We appreciate it, and hope to keep entertaining you. And definitely check out some of the other lovely articles there on legit MTG. check out Comic Town, our other sponsor. You can check them out at worldofcomictown.com or Comic Town Gaming Center on Facebook. And that's going to be everything. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll have a good weekend. I hope you do too. I guess I don't know. I kind of just messed that up, but thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time. Have a great one. Bye.